Welcome to GRC Uncensored, a new podcast designed to elevate real conversations with GRC professionals, auditors, regulators, and those building programs around it. Your hosts Troy Fine and Kendra Cooley, alongside producer Elliot Volkman, guide unfiltered discussions that dig into the reality of how governance, risk, and compliance function, rather than the rose-colored perspective that's fueled by millions in marketing spend. Now, onto your hosts.
Yeah, what are we talking about, Troy? Are we doing an episode? What is this? You told us
I think
chat
we
with
get
the three of us.
Jam, yeah, whatever we want to talk about. State of the world.
Oh,
maybe not the
well,
world.
that's
Maybe we'll avoid
problematic.
politics. Yeah. Well, we should try to get Krebs on here. Have you been following his stuff recently? Krebs on security.
Which particular,
he's just
there's a
going
lot.
crazy with politics.
Oh no! Wait. Are we talking about Chris Krebs or Krebs, the investigative reporter?
Brian Krebs.
Okay.
I had dinner with him once.
What?
Yeah. He came to, when I worked at a life insurance company several years ago, he came in and was like our National Cybersecurity Awareness Month speaker, and we went out to dinner with him the night before. He's a really super nice guy.
Yeah, I saw him speak. He did speak at a local ISACA event here. He was like the main speaker 6 years ago. I don't know. I forgot what he talked about. I'm sure it was.
Yeah, he told us like his story of having the FBI show up at his house.
When he got squatted. Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty wild. He's a very interesting guy.
I don't think I'd want to be him. Like he's made a name for himself and trying to get the bad people in trouble, and he's had to do a lot from what I've heard to like protect himself and his family. And
that would not surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. Like he's doing, I don't know. It's just interesting. And now he's like getting into like very political stuff, which is like, you're kind of putting another target on your back. Yeah, like it's interesting that he's going that route. Not that I mind it, but I know a lot of people are upset by it. So
yeah, it's hard to be vocal about certain things. But I mean, he's targeted and reported on the Russian threat actor situation for ages, and it doesn't just disappear. So not spreading any opinions here. All right, don't get me in trouble, people I work with. But yeah,
I know it's just interesting because if you're going to report on this type of cybersecurity stuff, you're kind of taking that risk. And having a family,
I can tell you for certain, like
interesting.
Our researchers, they can't be public facing because of that exact situation. There has been actualized threats against them. Now, I'm not going to expand upon that because that's already probably going to get me into hot water if anyone I work with sees it. But I will say, back in the day when I was an investigative reporter, I had that same shit happen to me. They cut the brakes on my bike.
Wait, you were investigating like cybersecurity?
No. This was like when I was first starting. This had nothing to do with cybersecurity. I was covering a story about an apartment complex that just basically was terrorizing a bunch of college level students. So they had no say. They were just getting what they, whatever they had. So do you know the term landlord special by chance? All right,
nope,
so when you go to an apartment and you see like they just paint over everything, that's how they patch and fix stuff, is like the cheapest way possible. It's not like slumlord, but this apartment complex is like slumlord situation. Holes from the second floor apartment going to the first floor, you can see through it, wave. Anyways, I reported on it, highlighted it. They had to do $50,000 to $80,000 in repairs, and they, on the bike. Oops.
What
did they do? They flashed your bike tires? Is that what you said?
No. They snipped the brakes just enough where when you pull on the brake, it would snap. And hopefully you're not in a situation where you're going to fly into the middle of a road.
How'd they know it was your bike?
I mean, I lived around that area.
Oh, so how petty.
Yeah.
What a dick move.
Anyways, totally irrelevant.
But
that
it's
is a dumb story
very
to
similar.
highlight.
That is though, right? Fear. Like if you scare people, they'll stop reporting on it. I mean, it was definitely
for sure.
I mean,
yeah, but I don't think Krebs is too worried about that. He's only amplifying and going like straight into the lion's den with where he's been.
Yeah, for sure. He probably keeps his bike in his garage too. So. Just a
I
guess.
know. I don't know. Like, at some level, I always think about this because I'm like, people know who I am, and I could say things that make people mad. I don't want people like, like you can come after me and like be mad at me, but then people like take it to the next level, right? I'm not Brian Krebs, so I'm not. But you know what I'm saying? He's doing what's right, but he's also taking a huge risk for his family, right? I mean, like, it's such a hard thing to do. I don't know. I don't know. I just think about it a lot. It's like,
I mean, you might not be Krebs, but you do have a significant following. We have received some fan mail of a certain flavor, which, people haven't been exactly happy with some of the stuff that we've said on here.
that. Yeah, but those are people that know us.
I don't know. Not always. Like you.
What fan mail? Wait, is there stuff you're...
Yeah, where's this fan mail
like,
coming to?
All right, I guess I forgot to share that information. Yeah, we've had some not happy vendors.
Oh, you never shared this with us.
No.
All
I
right.
thought everyone
I think I was
loved
either
us.
protecting or forgetting. It might be a little bit of both.
Well, I know certain vendors that I know, but I guess are there ones that I don't know?
Okay. All right. Moving on. You know what I forgot to do? We didn't introduce ourselves like we usually do. We just kind of jumped in because I hit record and we, again, don't really know what we're doing here. So, Troy, since I usually do the introductions and we don't have a guest, how about you kick us off?
I don't know how to do introductions to a podcast episode.
I mean, I usually make Kendra wrap us up, so you can at least give it a try.
We're here to just talk about the state of the world.
All right.
We're in GRC and what's ever on our minds. But now I'm really curious at who's sending us hate mail.
I know.
Hate mail. It's
Sending
concerned
us
feedback.
disgruntled mail.
I will say, and I will not call out a name. I will say they have pitched or either you have suggested bringing on that guest. And I said, probably not a good idea.
Troy did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for the world to be aware of like how we communicate, we just use like this group chat in LinkedIn Messenger, and that is where all of our planning typically goes. Occasionally we'll see, oh, that's kind of an interesting take, and someone will share the post. Right. And I believe that is either what Troy did, or you're just like, hey, this guy would be a good guest. I don't remember what it was, but yeah.
You're like, no.
I know you. Oh, but what was the? Are we now allowed to say what it was about? Or
I don't even remember. If it happened 10 minutes ago, I could probably tell you, but anything past that, no, good luck.
Is that the only one?
That I remember, yeah. Outside of the one that we were in the group message with.
First of all, why is it only going to you? They're just sending it to you?
Easier target. Maybe they'll know that they'll never get through your DMs.
Oh. They'll get to DMs. They can get DMs.
All right, we're doing something right. We're getting
actually, I would wish people wouldn't if they're not happy with what's going on. I wish they would tell me. It'd be actually good information to have.
Would it, Elliot? Do you agree with that?
I mean, if it is constructive feedback,
I'm
for
not
sure.
Very good at ignoring stuff that, like, it doesn't bother me if somebody disagrees or doesn't like it, as long as it's constructive. Now, if it's just not constructive and it's just got an agenda and it's just, I'm angry at the world and I'm taking it out on you, no, that's just, you just auto delete that. But if it's constructive and you can have an intelligent discussion about it, but it disagrees, great.
Agree to disagree. Best thing.
If you're going to go, the problem is people don't know how to do that anymore. Because for obvious reasons, it's just the way of the world now. You just say what you want. And that's it.
It's true.
CPAs suck. I don't like CPAs. That's all I see on LinkedIn now.
Put that up as your clip with zero context.
I know. That's been on my mind lately. I feel like SOC 2 and CPAs are getting such a bad rap. But I get it, right? I mean, you have CPAs and people are... I mean, I understand CPA is supposed to do taxes, supposed to do financial audits. So why is the CPA doing a cybersecurity audit, right? Like I totally understand where people are coming from, but it's just we're not all like that, right?
You've
Like,
got the experience to back it, but I will pull out a line that you said yesterday, and I don't remember if we were recording yet or not, where you are very good at finding any little detail that is just off in our preview versions of our episodes. I don't usually get that for any of the other stuff that I produce, which means I have to spend a little extra energy and attention cleaning that shit up before I send it to you. So I'm like, God damn it, Troy's gonna find all these little things and I'm gonna feel like an idiot. But that is the skill set, right? It is finding those little nuggets and being able to pay attention to detail. And
It's
who's better to do that with numbers? It's just basically a foreign language that most people can't understand.
if you understand risk, though, right? So what you don't know is I'm seeing other things too, Elliot, but I'm only telling you the ones that I think matter. See, that's actually a key skill, right? That's, I think, part of the problem is people have such bad experiences with CPAs because they're so robotic or so stuck in their ways, and they just go here, like they don't understand my tech, they don't understand security, they don't understand what's going on, they don't know what an API is, they don't know this. So why are CPAs doing this? Of course they don't understand this. They know numbers, they know taxes, so let's just generalize everything, right? So that's the problem. And they're not wrong, right? So CPAs are good at what you said, right? CPAs are supposed to be risk experts, right? So we audit so that when someone sees that report, they can trust the report and they can reduce their risk, right? They're getting assurance that the risk is mitigated because Troy Fine looked at this and signed off and said it was good. Should a CPA be signing off on a security report? That's the problem. I mean, it's yeah. I don't have a good argument against it, to be honest, because I've felt it internally, right? I've been at CPA firms. Guess who's reviewing a lot of the work internally at CPA firms? It's, you think the people doing the audits are the ones that don't have experience. Imagine the people looking at the reports internally at these big firms that they a lot of times don't have any background in IT or security, which is an issue, and I have felt it, right? So I understand. I felt the same way that these engineers or these very highly technical people have felt when CPA clipboard person comes in and says, you need to do A, B, C, and D, and what are you talking about? You're a CPA. You don't tell me what to do. You don't understand this. I'm sure Kendra feels that way sometimes.
My favorite from like all the audits that I've been through is when you're meeting with your auditor for the first time and they're talking to you about all the technical experience you have, and then you're just like, you get into the audit and they're asking you certain questions and you're like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Look over here.
I'm curious because what's like an example of a really bad question where you had just been like, I've now lost credibility in the whole ecosystem because this auditor, who's supposed to be an expert, asked me this question that is so off the wall that anybody that was doing their audit and had experience would never have. My 8-year-old kid wouldn't ask this question if they knew what they were doing, and you just asked it. Like, I mean,
I'm sure I can come up with some examples like off the top of my head, though nothing like really comes to mind. I have been pretty fortunate with the auditors that I've worked with to be like, they have some technical chops. It's just always funny to me when they, go into their 85 years of IT and cybersecurity experience and they start asking questions like, what the hell are you talking about?
do you think
Fairly.
CPAs are a lot like it's unfair, some of the bad and publicity or negativity that's put out there against CPAs doing this type of work? Do you think it's warranted all the time, I guess?
I think it's a mix, right? I mean, at the end of the day, what they're checking is to verify whether or not like certain controls are in place, right? Do you need to have a strong technical background to check a box? Probably not, but I can definitely see both sides of the argument in terms of whether a CPA should be doing this or not.
Have you actually had a CPA, the one doing the actual auditing? Were they actually a CPA ever? Or just the
No.
person that was signing the report? And like,
Usually it's just the person signing the report that's the CPA.
so that's an interesting thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is the person who doing the audit then, if they're not a CPA and they still didn't have the right experience to do it, then it's not really a CPA problem. It's just that the CPA hired bad people to do the
Bad
audit.
people. Yeah.
So why are they hiring bad people to do the audits? I don't know many people that come out of college and say, I want to be an auditor and get into security.
This is very true.
I mean, I think that same thing goes for GRC too. Like, how the hell did I end up in that seat?
I
mean,
yeah,
there
like,
are now
honest-
pathways. Simply Cyber does a great job of saying, hey, if you're not highly technical or maybe you suck at that side, GRC is a good option.
See, and I always think that that's weird as well. It almost seems like people who are looking to get into cybersecurity, like GRC is almost always the way that you go, especially if you don't have that like technical knowledge. That's almost like the first stop. Is that what you guys see as well?
Depends what we mean by technical, like coding and see.
Yeah.
I always get. I never. Technical is such a subjective term in my opinion. Like technical and what? Like I feel like I'm a pretty technical person, but if you told me I don't know how to code, right?
Like,
Yeah.
would you be able to survive in a SOC?
Yeah, I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah.
But
That's what I would mean by technical from a like traditional cybersecurity practitioner. Because usually they have a background in IT and that's their pivot point to get into it. I don't know that I see people escaping GRC after that's their entry point though. So unless they, just start to invest in that technical skill set to level up. But we do see CISOs that are more GRC oriented or less technical in nature, which brings its own complications, which I don't think we need to go too far down that rabbit hole, but yeah.
so technical means hands-on keyboard. Like I can do things. That's what we're
For
saying.
the context of this, sure.
But do you need to have hands-on keyboard to understand risk?
Oh, most certainly not. No.
So you
Risk
need
is
to be
like
able to understand.
much higher level.
Right. So that is what I was focused on. Right. So yeah, I'm not going to understand hands-on keyboard how to do something, but I could probably figure out once we talk through it for 20 minutes. Is this a good process? Is it a bad process? Like, where's the risk? Like, how are you doing this? Like, a person that understands, in my opinion, risk is good at doing that, right? Get to the point, what matters, let's ask the right questions, let's understand the process and understand the risk. Now you need to understand security in order to understand how to ask those right questions and get to the risk. But it's impossible. I don't know how to say it the right way. It's the people who are really good at that are probably not going to be good at hands-on keyboard.
I don't know. I would go that far. And so there's two pieces of that. I think you're correct in one way. And that way is that they are typically terrible at communicating exactly what you're digging at. You know how to ask the questions that a normal human would need to know to make decisions, whereas they are completely consumed in the information. So like it's just there. They're like, oh, why would I even explain that it does this person or this organization did that, and this is how it's going to impact you. For some reason that doesn't come out. It's not articulated. And I run into that a lot, or something that I do often, and that is part of the equation. But I think they do understand the level of risk, just are kind of terrible at communicating it.
You're referring to the technical person
Yes.
not being great at communicating. Yeah. I think I would agree with that. And so oftentimes, I have conversations with people and it's, oh, okay, if you're in the SOC or if you're like working ProdSec, you're considered to be like the more technical side. And then The folks who are working more on like the compliance or GRC side are almost written off as usually not being super technical. They're more of like the business minded individuals. And yes, like they're the ones who are expected to be able to articulate the risk to the business versus the people who are working in the SOC or working for product security. They speak oftentimes like an entirely different language, right? Being able to communicate with engineers, that's a skill set. So yeah, there's a lot of overlap there.
But they,
But I think like your question there, Troy, was kind of like, do you need to be technical in order to be a good auditor, right? Is that kind of like
to understand technical concepts, but to be technical those are two different like skills, right? I mean, I don't need to know how AI works to use AI, but I should understand like the general concepts of AI to use it efficiently, I guess, right? I mean,
yeah.
otherwise you're just you're
Right.
doing nothing.
It's like, yeah, for sure. I mean, so the differentiation there is, okay, I understand what an oil change is and in theory how to do it, but to actually say, hey, go change the oil in my car, I'd be like, no.
Or to evaluate the particular process that goes into it, or be incredibly efficient about it.
Exactly.
But
yeah, so I guess that
you watch somebody do an oil change, right? And you started asking them questions like, why did you do that? Or wait, what if you do this instead of that? What would happen? Right? So you're starting to ask questions like, oh, that's how it's done, but why are you doing it that way? Like the people that are doing it don't ever stop usually to ask that question. Why am I doing it this way? Is there a better way to do it? And so that's like, to me, like the purpose of what I'm doing a lot of times, right? Yeah, that's great. I understand now how you do an oil change, but why do you do it that way? Or why didn't you do this instead? Or what about this that you missed over here? Like, what if you pull it out and like, how do you know you put it back in the right spot 100%? Right? Like, I don't know. It just clicks. What do you mean it just clicks? Like, I mean, like you get to, like, it's just like asking questions. That's how, like, I don't know. Anyways, I thought that was a good analogy, but.
Well, then, so from like an auditing perspective, like obviously, Troy, you're quite technical, but put yourself in the
making it. That's the point.
Okay, so put yourself in the position of an auditor who is far less technical. Like, what would your approach be when you were walking through those controls? Would it be the like asking questions to try and like better understand, or would you just take whatever the client is telling you at face value and say, yeah, that looks good enough?
No, because I'm trying to think about like when I started doing this 15 years ago, but it was so new. I feel like 15 years ago, like cybersecurity and GRC, it was like a new discipline almost. So you could get away with asking a lot of stupid questions because no one so it's almost like, because a lot of people like ask me like, how'd you get into this? Or what did you do? I didn't intend to get into this. I just happened to get into it. And so I don't have a good answer to that, because I think if I took the approach that I took 15 years ago, I'd have trouble, right? Like I'd be ostracized, or people be like, you don't know what you're doing. I'd feel very intimidated, and I'd have a huge imposter syndrome. Oh, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Because I didn't know what I was doing 15 years ago, but nobody knew what they were doing. So it was almost like, I don't have a good answer to that, because I got lucky, if that makes sense. But I do have a personality where I like to figure things out, and I'm not afraid to ask questions, and I'm not afraid to dig into something. I think I have the ability to synthesize concepts pretty quickly and figure out the right questions to ask, just because that's kind of like my personality and who I am. I don't think it's like a skill I worked on, like, right? It just is what it is. So I don't know if that's a good answer, but I think you need to be the right kind of person to be an auditor. Like if you're intimidated to ask questions, that's not really a good use of your professional skepticism, right? That's like a concept that auditors are supposed to use. They're supposed to learn professional skepticism. I don't want to go to somebody and be like, hey, I think you're lying and not telling me the truth, right? That's a skill. Like, how do I get people to tell me things without, they don't want to think you're like coming at them or trying to find things. So you got to be like professionally skeptic, right? Without crossing the line. That is a very subjective skill that I think people just have or they don't have. So what happens is a lot of people probably aren't good at that. And so these audit firms are playing the volume game, right? So they need to get bodies out there to do the audits. And they hire anybody that wants to be an auditor. And this is what we give. So that was a long answer, but I don't have a good answer to it. Like I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
And I mean, I think, that's obviously fine. That for me, like when I've worked with audit firms in the past, like it becomes pretty obvious on like your first or second time interacting with an auditor, like, all right, this person either knows what they're talking about and they're going to actually try and dig into something, and we better make sure that we have our ducks in a row. Or if you're going to be able to just be like, okay, yeah, this isn't exactly right, but let me show you something else that might help to check this box so that we can just move past this point. And I definitely would be worried if Troy Fine was my auditor.
I don't think people are worried when I'm their auditor because I do take like a very reasonable approach to it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So like I do ask probably like some pressing questions maybe, or get into the weeds a little bit. But I'm also like, just because you answer a certain question a certain way or did this, like I might never come back to it, right? Because like I might determine it's really not reasonable anyways to go into it more, or there's these other compensating controls that are here. Inherently, this client might be less risky just because of the type of data they have. So maybe this risk in general is just overall lower. So I don't need to dig as deep anyways for this type of client, right? But
well, and that's also
thinking like that. They're probably just robotic and like I'm told to test this control and test
exactly.
And go.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's also like a huge differentiator in what you get when you do have an auditor who has some more of those technical chops and has seen a lot in their career, because they are able to help differentiate like where it's necessary to dig a little bit deeper and maybe what's not quite so important to spend a lot of time in like digging into.
But most people probably don't want their auditors to be good. And
again, we're coming back to the same thing. As always, right? You get what you pay for.
Yeah, market demand.
I think about this a lot too. And we don't have to keep talking about this, but it's been on my mind lately just because I see a lot of it. I should ignore it. But, if I pay for a more expensive audit, technically the auditors, theoretically, the auditors should be higher quality. I'm paying more money. So if you're a better auditor, then you're going to be more rigorous in your audit. You're going to look at things the way you should, and it's going to be harder to pass the audit. As a person that is getting pressure from the business to have a clean audit and pass it, wouldn't you want an easier auditor that probably wasn't, that I could probably like kind of influence or kind of point them in a certain direction and won't ask for certain things, and we know we're kind of just paying for that rubber stamp so we can move on with our life?
Yeah.
Like how, as you like, really, you probably don't think that, but I feel like that's, I mean, you might be in a different situation from a business perspective, but I imagine that's got to be hard if you're getting pressure from the business to have a clean audit. Obviously, you want the easiest path of least resistance to get that perfect audit report, whatever that means.
Yeah. I think it ultimately depends on what your objectives are. And I mean, again, this is the same thing that we come back to almost every single episode. But what are your objectives? For me, when I'm working with an audit firm, I see you as literally one of the biggest or easiest ways for me to get what I need in order to continue to scale security and like get the tooling that I need or get the budget that I need in order to continue to improve things. So I want my auditor to spend time asking me questions and diving into things and finding those holes, because at the end of the day, yeah, a clean audit report is absolutely what we want. But if it always comes back clean, how am I ever going to get the business to understand that we still need to invest and make things better? They're just going to continuously see, oh, we keep passing this, everything looks good. Why do we need these additional tools? Why do you need additional headcount? You're doing everything fine. But if I have something that I can point back to, like a letter to management with a list of not even findings, but just recommendations from the auditor, that's really beneficial to me. I'm probably slightly abnormal when working with auditors, but I have literally told audit firms in the past, I want you to find things.
How did you get to that point? Were you always like that? Like initially when you went through an audit, like the first time, did you always have that mindset, or were you nervous? Like
the first time that I took a company through an audit from start to finish, so going from 0 to 100, I was nervous because obviously I wanted a good outcome. I think the thing that really benefited me in that situation is that we had gone through like SOC 2 Type 1 gap assessment ahead of time. And the firm that I used was very helpful in like educating the entire organization about what we needed to do, where those gaps were, what their recommendations were for like how we fix those before moving into the Type 2. I think my mindset at that time was just like, oh my gosh, we have to make it through this and get a clean audit report. So I wasn't thinking about the relationship with the auditor in terms of, yes, I want you to find things. It was more like, help me figure out what we need to do here. But then I've had other experiences in my career too, where I've joined companies or I've done consulting engagements with other smaller organizations, and they're just like, we just want to get through this as quickly as possible. We don't want to spend a lot of money. Basically, pull the wool over the auditor's eyes and just make sure that we get this done and get a clean report at the end of it. And that just doesn't feel good to me. And so I choose not to participate in those sorts of situations.
I commend you.
I try to operate with some integrity, that's for sure. But no, I've said it for a number of years too. Like, I truly see my auditor as my biggest and best partner in trying to help advocate for my security program. So I wish more people had that mindset, to be honest.
I do think like GRC professionals or people that have been doing this a while do probably have a similar mindset to you. I think what we hear about is all the small companies that are startups and need to just get this really quick to sell, that don't have an internal security team, don't have an internal GRC team, think that the whole compliance thing goes against their whole culture of life. Like, compliance is a waste of time. I'm here to go against everything and everything. So yeah, let's just find the quickest way to do this without paying any money. And yeah, look, we beat the system. Yay, the SOC 2 sucks. It's a scam. That's what we hear about. But I do think there are a lot of people like you, Kendra, which is very refreshing. And those are mostly the clients that I work with, right? But for people like us, you know, it is a little, I don't know, disheartening, worrisome that like people are so negative that the people that are, I mean, that's how it is, right? The loudest people are usually the most negative or extreme people on both ends. But, you know, it's like, what is going to happen with all this? Good experiences don't get talked about, I guess is what I'm saying. And no one, because they don't get clicks, first of all. People are like, yay, cool, okay. Now let me hear about all the negative stuff, because that's what I like. And that's what we believe. Like, change is good. And, you know, SOC 2 is a CPA and a tax person is doing this. So let's go against the CPAs. And that's what it feels like to me. Now we're probably going to get messages, Elliot, after this, because people won't like my stance, but I am biased, of course, but I kind of have to be, because no one else is like supporting it. So
I think, unfortunately, I mean, SOC 2, CPA firms, the automation platforms, it's just kind of creating a environment where it becomes easy to devalue CPA firms,
Easy
software
target.
reports. Yeah, we've just created this mess.
What are your thoughts, Elliot?
I actually wanted to totally derail this. Troy, have you actually told the world your recent change? Because you keep sort of referencing it. Even...
Is this going to be airing after the middle of April? I used a term was
We
like
can.
50
We
years
can.
old airing, but is this going to be? Yeah, if we publish
I mean,
it
we
after
got
the
2
middle of
episodes.
April, it'll know.
Okay, yeah, we can.
Yeah, so let's assume that we're publishing this after April 15th. So I will be announcing on April 15th, but not because of tax day. You'll see why.
Sure, CPA.
Because I'm a CPA. See, yeah. Now, after this conversation, maybe I should change that. But there's a reason why. So I kind of it'll make sense once you all see it. But yeah, the reason I am biased is because I have started my own CPA firm. It's called Fine Assurance. FineAssurance.com. And the tagline or slogan is like compliance you can trust, right? So I'm trying to I'm getting sick of all the negativity, I guess you want to call it, or lack of trust that's being built here. So that's what I'm trying to do, one audit at a time. But it's probably been something I've been doing, and everything I've done up to the last 15 years is leading to this point. But yeah, I want to change the way people view, I guess, SOC 2 and CPAs, which is why it's been on my mind so much. But that's what I'm doing, Elliot. You probably guessed it, though.
I actually think you told me because I kept prying. So,
Well, it's news to
there.
me. It's news to me saying congrats. That's super exciting. So you're starting your own CPA firm, Fine Assurance, like the name.
Yeah.
PJ Fine Assurance.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned that, we were like, oh, audits are just fine.
I had to go with the brand. I had to go with the name. I had to use it, and that's it. Yeah, no. I actually like these kind of episodes the best because we could just talk. But yeah, say nice things about your CPA. That's my advice.
Seems reasonable.
Use them to help grow your security program as much as possible. Don't go for that check the box, rubber stamp audit report. It's not going to help anybody.
Yep.
Pay for the good guys. Go to fineassurance.com.
There you go.
Is it .com?
It is. You know what? Actually, and I it's funny. We can leave this part in, but assurance was a protected word in the state of Pennsylvania by the department. So the Department of Insurance had a protection on the word assurance. So I had to get approval from the Department of Insurance, and I wasn't sure if they were going to approve it. So I was like, a different name in case it doesn't get approved. So I was like, okay, Fine CPA. And I was like, is FineCPA.com like available? Like, you would think it wouldn't be, right? Like, someone has Fine CPA. Nobody had FineCPA.com. So I own that domain as well. But if you look up good CPA, great CPA, awesome CPA, they were all taken. So when I saw that Fine CPA wasn't taken, I was like, this is a sign. It's $10. I'm taking it. So I own that domain as well as a backup.
That's hysterical. I was just checking out your website. Looks nice.
I try to keep it clear, concise, and simple.
Like it. Compliance you can trust.
That's
Good
right.
stuff.
All right.
Fineinsurance.com.
I'm cutting us off. That's the end of our episode. Thank you all for joining us and rambling with us a little bit. We'll be back with something of a more topical nature and maybe some guests.
Krebs, if you're listening,
let Troy know. Send him some love or hate mail because he seems to be into those. And that's it. Wait, you had something
Brian
else?
Krebs, if you're listening, we want
yeah.
you. We want you on the episode, or Dude Wipes, one of the two.
All right, that's it. See you all next time.
Thank you for listening to GRC Uncensored, the podcast, where Troy and Kendra know their shit, and our producer just talks shit. To learn more about GRC, go to grcuncensored.com, subscribe to our newsletter, or join our community on Reddit. Viewpoints expressed during the show do not reflect the brands, employers, or companies of our hosts, guests, or sponsors.
apply.